Me going every day is knowing that they're returning to that quality of life that matters. Not that, okay, we've cleared up their septic infection. No. Yeah, that's part of it. But the true outcome is them getting back to what matters most to them. That's why I do what
Hello, and welcome to Elevate Leadership Podcast, powered by South Carolina State University's 1890 Research and Extension. I am Elizabeth Mosley Hawkins, Director of Marketing and Communications for 1890 Research and Extension. Just a little bit of information about 1890 Research and Extension is the public service arm for South Carolina State. We provide programs and services to citizens across the state of South Carolina, and we also conduct problem-solving research to help improve quality of life, again, for South Carolinians. So among the work that we do at 1890 Research and Extension is we seek to build entrepreneurship and leadership development for the citizens of South Carolina. And so one of the ways that we do that is through Elevate Leadership Podcast, which seeks to inspire and motivate existing leaders who want to advance in their career, and then to provide a blueprint for aspiring leaders. And today I am so excited to introduce to you our guest, Mr. Charles Williams, who is President and CEO of the Regional Medical Center of Orangeburg and Calhoun counties right here in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Charles, thank you for joining us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I want to start from the beginning. You have more than 20 years of experience in healthcare administration and business development. What interested you in starting a career in healthcare?
Really what brought me to healthcare was the love of the patient. I started out in healthcare as a clinician. I got my first job actually as a rehab technician on a unit treating patients, and my first master's degree was in occupational therapy. And I had an opportunity to treat all types of patients: stroke patients, brain injury patients, spinal cord injury patients, home health, inpatient. And back in about 2000, a couple of nurses approached me and said, "Have you thought about going into administration?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I have no interest, because the suits only care about the money, and I'm here for the people." 2 months later, they came back to me. This time they had a couple of doctors with them, and they said, "No, you really need to consider it. We think you would do well because you do care about the patient." So I got my second master's degree in business administration, and that's what started me down this journey. And I love it. I've worked for-profit, not-for-profit, inpatient, outpatient, private equity, and it has been a great journey. I've worked all across the country and in nationwide organizations as well as local. But at the end of the day, it's about the patient.
Once you realized that you wanted to pursue a career in this industry, what paths did you take to get there?
Well, when those nurses finally convinced me, I didn't really know what path. So I went to my CEO at that time and I said, "Talk to me about this administration thing." As you could tell, I really wasn't into it. And she said, "Well, you can get a master's of business or a master's of healthcare administration." And so since I already had a master's in a healthcare related field, I said, "I'll do business," because one of the things I believe we need is a good understanding of economics and finance. Because at the end of the day, I don't care how nice you are, they're not giving food away at Walmart because of your beautiful smile. You need cash.
Right.
So organizations need that financial savvy. From there, I went to school every Monday night and Saturday morning for 28 months while working as a director in a hospital. And it wasn't easy, but it was great because I also was able to do an international business course over in Europe for a month, traveling through 5 countries, 14 companies, understanding economics, healthcare, accounting, so that when I came back to the U.S., I could truly work towards ensuring that we can quantify what we're doing and why we're doing it. I also joined the American College of Healthcare Executives. I studied hard and I worked on my fellow so that I could be a certified healthcare executive, understanding the HR component, the insurance component, the business, the finance, so that I could lead appropriately. From there, I went to a not-for-profit. I got my first administrative role at JPS Health Network in Fort Worth, which was lovely because it was the hospital I was born in.
Oh, nice.
And it's just been a great ride, and really just trying to make sure that I'm constantly staying up on the current knowledge.
I love the fact that once you were tapped or encouraged to pursue healthcare administration, that you went to the CEO. We're here at South Carolina State University, where, of course, we are hopefully educating students who will go out and be leaders. And so when we talk to our students about professional development and career development, that's one of the things that we encourage students to do, when they have internships, to try and make connections, not only, with their immediate supervisor, but if they can even get an ear with the CEO or president of their company, because that individual will be able to help them as that CEO did, to provide you with a path. Because a lot of times you're just not sure. You see the goal, but you're just not sure how to do that. Talk a little bit about, how important it is for students or even aspiring leaders to make that connection.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you hit the nail right on the head. It's very important because you can't dream about or plan about what you don't know about. Not only did I talk to my CEO, but you're right. There was a large hospital in my city that I grew up in, Fort Worth, Texas, that I truly admire. And it's now called Texas Health Harris Methodist Hospital. And Barclay Burdan was the CEO of this mega organization. And I walked into his office one day. My wife was actually a nurse there. And I'd had lunch with her. And I looked at the administrative door and I said, you know what? I'm going to go talk to him. And I walked in, and his secretary, I'll never forget, administrative assistant, Miss Sheila. I said, Miss Sheila, my name is Charles Williams. You don't know me. But I would like to know if Mr. Burdan would give me 30 minutes of his time. I aspire to be a healthcare leader, and I promise only to take 30 minutes. About 2 to 3 weeks later, I hadn't heard back. I called again. And she said, you know what? Let me check with him. And he granted me those 30 minutes. And he's the one who introduced me to ACHE, the American College of Healthcare Executives. He's someone that today that, I can shoot him an email and say, hey, what do you think about this? He introduced me to a mentor who is still my mentor today. His name is Terry Akins. He's the president and CEO of Cone Health in Greensboro, North Carolina. People who have blessed me and blessed my career, saying, Charles, you might want to do this. You might want to look at this. You might want to consider these things. That's important that young people understand that it's okay to ask questions, because some would say, well, we're all going to make mistakes. But there are some mistakes we can avoid if we're willing to listen to those who come before us.
Awesome. And let's talk a little bit about mistakes.
Oh.
Mistakes that you might have made in your career. A lot of times people are afraid to make mistakes. But one of the things, I've been in marketing and communications for 20 years, and just in life in general, you make mistakes, and we're afraid to make mistakes. But if we look at it from a different perspective, mistakes really are designed to help us grow. So in your career, tell us one of the mistakes that you've made and how that has helped grow you in your career.
Well, first, let me say this about mistakes. We're all going to make them. It's how you make them. What I mean by that, if you make a mistake with the wrong intent, or because you're lazy or you're going half speed, that's one thing. But if you make a mistake with good intent or hustling, my football coach used to say, we're all going to make mistakes, but if you make a mistake hustling, I can live with that. If you're trying to help somebody, you make a mistake, that's okay. Because listen, there would be no innovation if not for mistakes. Because you have to try something that others have not been willing to do. So for me, one of the biggest things I've learned, one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my career, and I've tried to correct that, is always wanting to be nice early on in my career. Always wanting people to like me. Because what you have to understand is everyone's not going to like you. And sometimes with leadership, it's not about being nice. but doing the right thing. Now, you want to be respectful, but sometimes we think of nice as well. I don't want anyone to be mad at me. So how do I find a way for us all to agree? But the reality is, it's okay to disagree as long as you're not disagreeable. So that's probably been the biggest learning curve for me because I've made that mistake in the past. And when I tell you it has really come back to bite me, it has. But the older I've gotten, or might I say the more seasoned I've become,
Yes, more experience.
I've learned that, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay for some not to particularly care for what I said, but walk away and say, but at least I know it's the truth, and I respect the way he said it, and I know that he's saying it out of love, care, and compassion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So would you say you lead with empathy, or what?
Oh, so first and foremost, my leadership style is one truly of servant. Um, it's a servant-based style. And some would say that that's weak, but I actually disagree. You have to lead with empathy. You have to meet people where they are. You have to, because at the end of the day, you don't care how much I know unless you know that I care. And the reality is no matter what your industry is, no matter what your business is, in order to truly succeed, there must be trust. People love to say that strategy times execution leads to success, but no. Strategy with a mix of trust, because the reality is if you don't trust me, execution is going to take a long time because you're going to move slower and the cost is going to be higher. But if you trust me, execution time decreases and the cost goes down as well. We have to make sure that people trust us. That's when you think about politics, business, and other, that's one of the fundamental issues right now in our society, is believing what is said to be true. Are they really telling me the truth? And my mother and my father always said to me, son, you prefer that when you walk away from a conversation that people may be a little upset, but know that what came out of your mouth was the truth. We all know, folks, that we leave an event and everybody's laughing and saying, oh, that guy, that gal, they're so funny. I just love listening to them. Now, you don't know if it's true, but I love listening. You don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
People need to trust what comes out of your mouth.
Yeah. And so how do you build trust among staff?
Well, being very authentic, giving of yourself. I share things that some would say you shouldn't share. You shouldn't tell people that, you come from the hood. They may think you don't understand, that you're not used to this. You shouldn't tell people that you've made mistakes because they may doubt you. Well, the reality is, when people know that the leader or the person in the leadership role has made a mistake, when they make a mistake, it's not hard to believe that they can recover. But if all they see are these leaders with this persona of perfection, when they make a mistake, how do they identify?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We have to be about being real with people and then get to know them. One of the things I do when I start a new job or a new position is get to know the folks. And it's not about the professional side, but if you don't mind talking, what are your hobbies? What is your immediate family? Consist of husband, wife, kids? Because at the end of the day, that's what's most important to you.
Yes.
And unless I show that I care about that, we're never going to go anywhere. Because people don't come to work for fun. They come to work because they got a family to feed.
Right.
They got bills to pay. And, we don't like to talk about that. But it's the reality of life. So for me, just being real. And if folks say, oh, he's weak, that's okay. You can think what you want. But I know I'm here to serve. But I can't serve you if I don't know you. If I don't have a relationship with you.
Relationship, yeah. So you've mentioned several times leading as a servant.
Yes.
And you were hesitant at first about entering healthcare administration because you had an idea or a thought that perhaps it would hinder you from having that connection with your patients. So of course, servanthood is one of the things that you, I'm assuming, enjoy about your career. What are some other things that you enjoy about healthcare and healthcare administration?
You know, what really helped me make my mind about going into administration was what one of the nurses said to me is, you know, Charles, we appreciate the fact that you love taking care of patients, but right now you can only see one patient at a time. If you go into administration, your decisions impact multiple patients at a time. I remember treating a patient once who had open heart surgery, and this gentleman has passed on. This was in the 90s. And as we talked, at that time, he couldn't even raise his head off the pillow. He had been a postman for all of his career, but he talked about his wife and his children. And I remember caring for this man and treating him as his therapist. And I remember the day he walked out of the hospital. And that's what keeps me connected to this day, is when people come into our ED, or they're coming in for surgery, or whatever they come in for, to see them leave. Because the reality is they're not a stroke patient. They're not a dialysis patient. They're a mother, a father, a sister, or a brother. And what keeps me going every day is knowing that they're returning to that quality of life that matters. Not that, okay, we've cleared up their septic infection. No. Yeah, that's part of it. But the true outcome is them getting back to what matters most to them. That's why I do what I do.
Good. You're watching Elevate Leadership Podcast. I'm Liz Mosley Hawkins, Director of Marketing and Communications for 1890 Research and Extension. And today we're talking to Charles Williams, CEO of the Regional Medical Center of Orangeburg and Calhoun County, again in Orangeburg, South Carolina. And today we're talking to him about his 20 years plus of experience in healthcare administration. And Charles, let me just kind of shift a little bit. Talk to me a little bit. What are about 3 to 5 principles to which you prescribe, and and how would you say these things have helped contribute or attribute to your success?
Well, you know, one, I think, is humility. We have to understand that it is not about us. And no matter how many awards you get, no matter how many people tell you you're good, never believe your own press. Always know that if not for someone else, my Father in heaven, first and foremost, but if someone here also earthly helping you, you wouldn't be where you are.
Right.
And we're not placed in our positions for ourselves. We're placed in our positions to serve others. So that's one. 2 is always understanding that as a leader, persuasion is important.
Okay.
Because the reality is we hear leadership and management. Management is saying, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to work it around. But in leadership, you have to have a vision, and people have to believe the vision and be persuaded by the vision to follow. But you know, probably the number one principle that I really believe in, and you may never see this in a book, this is Charlesism. And this Charlesism is compassionate and loving boldness. There's a scripture that I really love, and it's in 1 Peter, 3rd chapter.
Okay.
And it's in the latter parts of that chapter, but that 12th through the 14th verse, one of the things it talks about is, you know, how the Lord really, he loves the righteous, and he talks about not fearing doing good, but understanding that you may suffer when doing good. But it's okay because he's got you. That's me truly paraphrasing it. But
Yeah.
so often in leadership, we make popular decisions because of what it means for us, the good it means for us. But what we have to, I mean, you look at the political scene right now, this bipartisanism and all, my party, but is that really the right thing?
Right.
You have executives that stay in roles because they want what's best for them and they don't want to make anyone mad. But the reality is, right is right, wrong is wrong. And more leaders at some point have to stand up and say, you know what, it's not about my tenure, it's about those that I serve. It's about my customer. It's about my audience. It's three things I've always said to the individuals and the family members of RMC.
Okay.
It's all about trust, sustainability with a focus on the community. Notice, none of that's about Charles, or Charles. It's trust,
Yeah.
sustainability with a focus on the community. So, empathy, understanding the importance of persuasion for vision, and compassion and loving boldness. Those are big deals to me.
You talked a little bit about having a vision. If you don't have a vision, people are less likely to follow you. And so oftentimes you hear leaders underscore the importance of vision casting.
Oh, yes.
How do you use that tool to vision cast for the trajectory of your career, but then also to transfer that to vision casting for the organization?
Well, I love all the different business terms we come up with. It allows someone to write a book and sell it or have all of these conferences. But let's think about that. Casting. What is casting? Throwing out
there, yeah.
a vision. But to me, that's just the start. See, we can talk about vision, make it plain and throw it out there. But the reality is the vision is built on what? A shared understanding of what's important. You take a coach of a football team, since we're in football season. The coach can say, the vision is to win. But if that coach doesn't implement a practice process, doesn't implement a playbook for each quarter, also based on the situation, because the play that you call when you're up 20-0 is different than the play that you call when you're down 20-0.
Right.
So in putting together the vision, one, you have to know the people and have that trusting relationship so we all agree about this is where we're going and this is where we are. So these are the objective things we need to do. So I think we have to move beyond just saying, okay, we're going to cast it out there. No. That's why scorecards are so important. One of the things that makes the sports arena so successful in everyone getting on the same page is they can look up and see the goal is to have the leading score, and we only got 10 minutes left. So let's run this play that we all agree is going to work, and we're going to do it this way together so that at the end of the day, we have the higher score. So throw the vision out, but build the objectives and the goals to get us to the vision. Is that okay? Is that fair? Because we got to get beyond. I have probably 4 bookshelves of different business books, and I read them, and my wife, she's like, you always look at these different books. I'm like, yeah, because I'm looking for what's between the line.
Gotcha.
Because that's what the people are listening for. What's between the line? What touches the heart? What drives the soul every day as people get up and they come to work and they have their good and their bad days, but what keeps them going towards the same goal?
And with those goals and objectives, there are decisions that need to be made.
Yes.
How do you make difficult decisions as a leader, especially in healthcare, because a lot of times those decisions may impact someone's health? How do you make those decisions?
Well, first and foremost, you start with the patient. The patient's always at the center. Long-term sustainability is always at the center. And of course, you ask all of those stakeholders. It's led by our physicians, our governing committee, my other executive leaders, my directors, my staff, because they're the closest ones to it. You got to ask the people doing it every day. But there's going to come a time as a leader where you have to make the difficult decision because you may have various opinions. And I get back to what does it mean to the patient? And when I do that, regardless of who might be upset, I sleep very good at night. Because that's ultimately why I entered this profession. That's ultimately why I stay in this profession. And one day, hopefully I'll be blessed to teach the next generation about entering this profession.
I want to ask you a question. I want to kind of shift gears. You talked about sustainability. COVID-19 has rocked every business model in every industry. How has the coronavirus impacted the healthcare industry, and how do you see the healthcare industry? In what ways does the industry have to shift in order to remain sustainable?
Well, I think what it's going to do, it's going to force us to get back to, as you've heard back to the science. Healthcare has, in many cases, sometimes gotten back to, it's open, it's pretty, people want, they look for healthcare that's almost like a hotel experience. But the reality, it's healthcare, okay? We need to get back to public health and prevention and infection and taking care of those basic things. One of the things we found even in our COVID response, we limited our access. We at one point had multiple entries to the hospital. Now you come through limited entrance points. We look at your temperature, we monitor where you go, but really it should have been like that all the time. I mean, you don't just let folks walk into school, do you? No, but why do we think the hospital is just open? It's not a convention center. It's a place of healing. So what it's going to force us to do we're going to be innovative. We got to look at cost management. We have to look at the science, not just what looks good. It's going to be difficult.
Okay.
It's going to be very difficult. It's not going to be easy. Many of our hospitals across this country are struggling because we've had to minimize or eliminate outpatient procedures. The reality is in our healthcare system, the outpatient procedures, we're moving more to an outpatient model, less inpatient models. Okay, you got less folks staying in the hospital, that care is high, you really need those outpatient procedures to help you balance it. There's going to be an increased drive for that. It's not about, 15 family members can come see mama. No, you can't really have 15 people walking through the halls because I don't know where those 15 people have been.
Right.
Oh, well, you're infringing on my rights. We're in a hospital. It's not about your rights. It's about healing. So healthcare is going to truly change. It is not going to be the same. But what's important is that we lead through this change and not just manage a crisis. So once again, we love to manage things. But how do you lead and say, okay, we need to do our procurement of supplies differently. Right now, I have 10 times the amount of PPE or protective equipment that I normally have, because at the start of all of this, I was being charged 5 to 8 times the amount.
Wow.
If I could find it, possibly ordering stuff from China. It was crazy. Things have changed. It's a different business now, but I'm excited about it, honestly.
What makes you excited about it?
It's what drives me. It's actually what has made me change the different jobs I've changed. Is healthcare is no longer go sit in the office and people come. Now it's about being innovative and really driving people to the purpose of great healthcare, and it's different every day. I like that. I don't know what today is going to be like. I don't know what tomorrow's going to be like. But if you say you're a leader and you say you're bold and you say you care about people, it should excite you, not scare you.
And even though it's all evolving, the way it's going to kind of unfold, how do we prepare future leaders for what's to come?
Well, one of the things I think, and I do this in healthcare, when I take a resident on, when I do their schedule, I remember one of the first residents I had, I do their schedule where they spend time in every department. They come in thinking, I'm going to be an administrative resident. They come in their suit, and I said, you look really good. But there's a shift that you're going to do on the nursing unit. There's a shift you're going to do in environmental services. Yeah, you're going to wear the uniform. You're going to mop some floors. Because if you don't understand what the people do who serve you, how can you serve them?
Yeah.
We have to be about the business of understanding the core of all that we do as leaders. Because the further we get away from it, we begin to think it's simple. But the reality is what they do every day is valuable and it's hard. And my role is to minimize and remove barriers so each of them can be great. That's my role. If if I'm not there for the lab technician, understanding the microbiology and the machinery that she or he needs to do their job, well, that's a major bottleneck to the diagnosis of care. I have to serve them.
Love that.
Oh,
What keeps you up at night? What are things that you ask yourself that keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night, the reality is ensuring or hoping that everyone cares about what they do. So I heard, and I'll say this, know why you do what you do. I heard an interview once, David Rubenstein, one of the founders of the Carlyle Group, he interviewed former President Clinton and former President Bush together. So
Okay.
if you're blue or red, you got both. And when he asked about leadership qualities, one of the things one of them said is, first, know why you're running. Know why you're in the leadership role. If you're in that leadership role just to get a paycheck, you're in there for the wrong reason. No, I'm there to serve. So what keeps me up at night is when I think I might have somebody in a role and they're not there to serve. They're there for themselves. They don't understand the why. That's what keeps me up, because that's not a person I need in that role. I need that nurse to understand that he or she is not just there to get through their 12-hour shift. They're there to care for their 4 to 5 patients to ensure that they get the care and the love they need to get back to a successful life with their family. So that's really it, caring about the people.
And that's what keeps people motivated. Kind of, is it Simon's, I don't know how to pronounce, Simon Sinek, who talks about understanding your why.
Absolutely.
You know, so that will motivate you and keep you going.
Absolutely.
And, you know, help everybody to have a clear understanding of why they do what they do. And, you know, it'll kind of come from a top-down perspective, and everybody will hopefully be able to experience that.
I love what I do. I love people. And I'm not afraid to say there are times I find myself in tears because I'm blessed to do what I do. Notice I didn't say I'm lucky. No, I'm blessed because I know from which I came.
Yeah.
And if God can do what he's done for me and allow me to take care of people and see the things I've seen, hey, I owe it to give it back. Because what do they say? Service is the rent we pay on earth for the grace God gives us. We should have that in every part of our lives.
So I'm going to wrap it up.
No problem.
But I want to ask you one question,
Yes,
one
ma'am.
more question. You're in healthcare, and you said a lot of what you do is about service, so that means you're constantly giving of yourself. How do you give yourself, what's your way of self-care, taking care of Charles?
I love to work out, and I'm a big walker. I have walking routes between 2.5 and 12 miles that I do in different places. Some people around town may see this guy who walks with a stick and a black hat on his head. That's me.
Okay.
And I walk because it allows me meditation time. Gives me time to listen to the Lord. See, if you don't listen, you'll never hear. And it's just time to meditate, walk, but it also allows my cardiovascular system to recover, because you can't serve if your body's not right. You can't serve if your mind is not right. So it allows me time to clear and just release, so that when I am serving, I'm a full picture, because I can't pour into you what I don't have.
That's a great point to lead on. A lot of times we leaders are just going, and they don't take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
So I hope you continue to take care of yourself.
I will do my best. I will do my best, and same to you.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much I know you're super busy, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and join us and talk a little bit about your leadership experience and how you navigated through this. We have so many people who aspire to go into small businesses or own their own business, And it's just always good. I know for me, I love reading autobiographies and biographies. And so just to get an understanding of how people overcome certain things. And so in this aspect, it's really good to be able to just connect with leaders in the community who've gone down that road and have wisdom to share with our viewers what it takes to become a leader. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Elevate Leadership with South Carolina State University 1890 Research and Extension. I'm Elizabeth Mosley Hawkins, Director of Marketing and Communications, and we were joined today by Charles Williams, President and CEO of the Regional Medical Center in Orangeburg, South Carolina. We hope you'll join us next month for our next episode. Thank you so much.